All right, welcome back into the Royals Farm Report podcast. My name is Alex Duvall, joined as always by Joel Penfield. Joel, I love that hat, and I know
Oh
Josh
yeah.
in the background on his shelf as well. It is my favorite minor league hat the Royals have ever run out at any level. The mason jar with the fireflies in Columbia is a close second, but that is my favorite hat. So, A, how are you doing tonight? B, nice hat.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, this is my favorite one. Shout out to our guy Vinny for sending me some of these the double A hats they had. I guess one of his roommates from his time in Northwest Arkansas left a bunch of them behind, and he just sent them to me because they fit my head perfectly. So shout out there. And then I'm going to continue to stack some of these minor league hats so that I can have a nice rotation of all of them. The mason jar one is at the top of my order list right now. So that will be in an episode, hopefully here very soon.
Yeah, that mason jar hat. And then I feel like the black, or is it maybe navy blue, but the gold O for the Omaha hat.
I like the black hat with the powder blue Storm Chaser logo. I think that might be the move for my AAA. So if anybody has any suggestions for Royals minor league hats, DM me, tweet me something, and I'll see what I can do.
Also joined tonight with our new co-host, Josh Keizer. Joshua, how are we doing? And the new setup you've got back there, is that the country breakfast barbecue sauce that you've got there?
Sure is. Got to hit it a ton, right?
That is amazing.
We got the barbecue sauce. We got an old Rex Hudler hugging the foul pole card. We're going to collect a lot of little ridiculous things. I think the more ridiculous things I could have, the better. Because that's kind of my style. But going back to your question about how I'm doing, I'm two things. I am, one, furious that Joel got that hat for free when I paid $45 for mine. I'm a little upset by that. And I'm also really cold. And that's because for anybody not watching us on YouTube, I'm doing them. These shows are going to be completely nude until we get about 150, 200% increase in views. So I'm just going to be cold as I sit here in the nude if you're just listening to us. So whatever you want to do, I appreciate you here. But, if you want to see me naked, you're just going to have to watch it.
If you take your clothes off, I'm leaving.
Yep.
I'm not participating in this podcast anymore.
That's the proper. Even though I started working out this week, I got one of those Oculus things. I started hitting a bunch of moving targets, and I feel jacked right now. So
I will say the boxing game that you can download in that is okay. So I never boxed as I don't want to say officially, but like in a ring with gloves on. I've never boxed before. The game, the guy, he wouldn't quit moving forward. I would give him a combo, couple shots to the ribs, get a good jab in the face, and he just keep coming. It's like it's a workout because you are constantly having to swing and dip, duck. What's it? Dip, duck, dive, dodge, and dodge.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah, that it really is kind of a workout if you're fat and out of shape like I am.
100%. My whole my shoulders back to my lower back and all my arms, they're trash right now. But working through it. I'm happy to be here, and let's talk some farm system.
Big thanks to KCSC, Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. They train boys and girls, baseball, softball of all ages out at home field in Olathe. So thank you very much to Kansas City Strength and Conditioning, the home of Scott Barlow, who is currently locked out of Major League Baseball. So Scott has been training over at KCSC this offseason. Joel did an interview with Scott for the One Royal Way podcast at KCSC, again, at home field there in Olathe. So thank you for being the title sponsor, picking up the podcast so we can talk about Royals minor league baseball with you. So without further ado, let's get into some Royals minor league baseball, boys. We want to do a call your shot show. So basically what we're going to do for the next, I don't know how long it's going to take. Basically what we're going to do now is we're going to run through some statistical categories, offensive and defensive, and we're going to give a top one or two leaders in each category throughout the Royals minor league system. So this will include all levels of minor league baseball, AAA down to the Dominican Summer League if you want to pick somebody out of there. But anyway, so we're going to go through and pick leaders for some big categories. I want to start with base hits. Let's just start with base hits tonight, gentlemen. Josh, we will start with you because you are the first person up and down on my screen here. So, Josh, you get to start. Pick a leader. And by the way, boys, I thought about something. when we inevitably in September or October meet at the Kingdom Bar and Grill for a Chiefs game, we'll tally up who gets the most of these right, and the two losers will buy the winner his first 2 beverages for that Chiefs game this fall.
I thought whoever gets the most shots gets to divvy up among the other two.
That's fine.
However many shots
figure out
they get.
We can figure out the cold beverages that way or some way, but this is gonna count. This is for something. So
there's actual stakes.
Give me your best picks here, and I'm at a disadvantage for this one because I'm going last. So Josh, you can pick. We'll do this as a draft of sorts. So Josh, you're going first. Pick the Royals minor league leader in hits for the 2022 season.
We're going full hits. Yeah.
Base hits.
Are we counting? I should have clarified this earlier. Are we counting anytime any hits they have in the majors too?
No. Good question.
Okay.
So really quick, I'll rattle off last year's leaders, top 5. Bobby Witt Jr. had 144. Vinny Pasquantino with 131. MJ Melendez, 129. Clay Dungan, 128. Michael Garcia, 120.
Okay. I think my guy in hits is going to be kind of an underdog, I think. I'm going to go with Michael Massey.
Not an underdog. That's actually who I was going to pick. So
is it? Well, we did it, boys. With the first one, we come right out of the gates with too many matches. So I figured there might be some, I threw that caveat at the beginning because we could see some pretty good graduations in the positional ranks for sure. But one guy I'm pretty sure is going to be sticking in the minor league system the entire year. And also has a great bat is indeed Michael Massey. Had 112 hits at 289 last year in just 99 games. So he gets a full season under his belt. I think he can lead this organization in hits for sure.
Joel, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Nick Lofton. We had him in our top 5 over at Royals Farm Report in our preseason prospect rankings. He kind of struggled at the gate. I think he got a little banged up early in the year, but by the middle of May, he just started just raking and just destroyed the baseball all over the place. Hit for enough power to make himself kind of, he can kind of punch above his weight a little bit when it comes to that. But the hit tool is really nice, and I think that's going to be the guy that's going to do it.
Yeah, that was going to be my second pick. So now I'm down to
you screwed yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
See, I'm torn between a couple guys here. One of them I feel like could get big league time, and I'm afraid. But the other one that I want to pick is already on the 40-man roster. So with that being said, I am going to – you talk about underdogs. I am going to take one am I really going to do that?
Just roll it.
I'm going to go with Tucker Bradley.
Yeah.
That was going to be my second.
It.
Like if we had it like an honorable mention because – I've tweeted it all year, and it's true. Tucker Bradley just hits.
That's all he does.
Dude, just professional hitter.
Yeah.
Any sort of bat to ball cliche you can think of for a guy, it's Tucker Bradley.
Yeah. So my other options there were Clay Dungan, who
that's
probably going to start the year in Omaha, which makes him an injury away from being the big league second baseman in some capacity, or Michael Garcia, who's on the 40 now. Michael Garcia is probably the smarter pick there, but he walks a lot. He's going to be getting his first taste at AA. So I'm okay with Bradley there. I was looking down the ranks from last year. Bradley, he does walk a bit. I think that walk rate will come down when he gets to AA. I think the hits will go up, especially because AA last year banned the shift, which is good for left-handed hitters. So I will go with one Tucker Bradley there. Next category on my list, gentlemen, is home runs, and we're snaking around. So I will go first this time. My pick for organization leader, I feel like there's only one right answer. Like I feel like there's only one guy you can pick and not feel dumb about it later. So I'm going to go Sully Matias and pray he is healthy, because if he's healthy, he will lead the organization in home runs. I think Carter Jensen has a chance. I think there's some other guys with a chance. I think Witt, Pasquantino, Prado, Melendez get too much big league time. I think Matias spends one more year in the minors at a minimum. So I'm going to go Sully for minor league leader in home runs.
I think that's a good pick. He's going to always get those PAs to try to get him on the right track. So I think that's a really good pick.
The problem is, and this is just the biggest problem with him, is how long does it take for him to get hurt,
Right?
And how severe is that injury?
Yeah.
If he plays 100 games, if he plays 100 games or more easily, he's going to lead the team or the organization in homers. But does he get to 100 games? And I think that's just the biggest problem with Sully Matias at this point.
Yep.
Joel, you're up.
So I'm going to go a little bit off board. So can we pick this? Like, can we pick someone that was picked in a previous category to lead this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to go with Michael Massey because I'm totally he hit 21 last year in high A Quad Cities. And he wasn't a huge power guy in college. Like, obviously, Drew Saylor and Alex Zumwalk, Mike Tosar figured something out, and he was able to figure something out and elevate the ball and get it out there in Quad Cities. And there are some pictures of him from this offseason. That dude is jacked. Like, you can tell he has put on some muscle. He looks cut. I mean, show muscles. And I think it would not shock me if he managed to get around 25 to 27. And if he can do that in Double-A, I think there's a pretty good chance there.
Yep. I don't hate that pick at all. I think that's pretty solid. Obviously, I think I like his hit tool for sure. So he gets a loft on that. He's in good shape. I'm maybe surprised a little bit, but it also is obvious on the obvious side as well. I'm going Nick Prado. He was second in 2021 with 36 home runs. I feel like the K percentage, 28.5% K percentage, is going to kind of keep him a little bit, on the worrisome side. He had the 11th highest in the organization last year. And I think despite what we want to happen on the big league level, I still think that there's somewhat of a logjam there at first base currently. A lot can happen between now and whenever they actually make their first pick. But right now they got Carlos Santana, Ryan O'Hearn, and Hunter Dozier there currently. And those guys are going to get opportunities, especially Dozier and Santana at first base. And O'Hearn always seems to be in the equation, no matter what we all think about it. And there's a decent chance that Vinny Pasquantino leapfrogs him at this point, depending on how he kind of responds there at the beginning of the year. Had there been a regular spring training, I might be singing a different tune. I think he would get a longer look. But now that we're kind of in at least a shortened spring training, it kind of seems like there's potential there for Prado to be sent down to Omaha, and then maybe he stalls out. Maybe he hits a bunch of dingers and still striking out a ton. Maybe he's just still has a lot of questions to kind of go along, and maybe that logjam hasn't cleared above him. So I think there's a decent chance that Nick Prado still gets plenty of run in the minors, in the upper levels, and I think he could still lead this organization in home runs at that point.
That is a good pick considering your options. I would not have. I think Matias and Massey were definitely my top two, but considering the next best option is probably Juan Carlos Negret, I don't blame you at all for taking the dice roll with Prado there.
And I think Melendez is the same case. I mean, that could also eat up some of those potential MLB at bats if Melendez gets the call, because he's kind of heating up there in Omaha to start the season. So that's just another bat that could potentially leave Prado back down.
Agreed. We're going to jump to OPS here, and the qualifier for OPS will be anybody with a qualified number of plate appearances. But let's go. Let's stick with the A ball teams. So let's not dip into the rookie ball. So let's go A ball and above, A to AAA, qualified hitters. Well, actually, let's not even do qualified. Let's do 250 plate appearances.
Okay.
250 plate appearances, league or organization leaders in OPS from low A to AAA. Josh, you're first.
Sticking with my boy, Nick Prado. For all the reasons I've already kind of said, he's got the power tool, the 602 slug last year, but he's also walking 15.2% of the time. And that power and the walking percentage kind of spells OPS to me. So I'm going to stick with Nick Prado as long as that's allowed.
That is allowed if you think he's going to get 250 plate appearances.
I think there's a decent chance. It's a big roll of the dice that could blow up in my face right out of the gate. So that's nothing new for me. I've learned to deal with stuff like that in the past, so I'm sticking with it.
Go ahead, Joel.
I'm going with Italian breakfast. It's a little bit of a risky pick because he doesn't walk as much as a guy with his skill set and hit tool should. But he hits the crap out of the ball and hits a ton of doubles. And with the power that he possesses, I think he's going to slug enough to kind of carry that OPS number.
Okay.
So
So
who was going to have him? Somebody in this trio was going to take Vinny at some point. So I was wondering when it was happening.
we probably should have clarified this before we started. In order to get a point, are we just comparing the 3 guys that we each drafted, or are we going to compare? You have to actually have picked the organization leader.
I think you actually have to pick the organization leader.
This is a call your shot, not throw it in the vicinity.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So then the guy I picked doesn't just have to have a higher OPS than Prado and Pasquantino. He's have to actually lead the org.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That changes who I was going to pick.
Ooh. I'm curious who it was going to be.
I'm looking at the leaders from last year, trying to figure out if there's a sneaky pick down at like low A.
There was a couple of them last year. There was like, who is that?
Okay, this is probably a bad pick. I'm gonna roll with Kale M Schoff.
I love it. Let's go.
Kale M Schoff walks a lot. He's got a good command of the strike zone. He hits for an insane amount of power. I think he's going to start at high A. I think there's some experience on my side here. I just think if you're looking for a guy who could go off, and again, I mean, I don't know, your other options are guys that may or may not get 250 plate appearances. Like Melendez would be an easy pick here. Yeah. I think he's up too quick. I don't think there's any way he gets 250 minor league plate appearances, especially because he could get locked out, which is one thing I don't know if you would consider with Prado is he may not be on that Omaha opening roster. I'm going to go with Kale M Schoff there. I don't love that pick, but I think Kale is capable, and so I'm going to roll with Kale M Schoff there. So we could have done weighted runs created plus for our next category, but it's too closely correlated with OPS. Yeah. So the last not the last one, but the next offensive statistic we're going to do, and I'm recording all this on my phone here. So let's do walk to strikeout ratio.
Oh.
Because I think that is my favorite like kind of interesting category left. Also 250 plate appearance qualifier for this one. I, having the first pick for this one, am taking one Darryl Collins.
Mm-hmm. That's immediately who I went to.
So there you go. I left the other, like it was between. Go ahead, Joel, really quick. Go ahead, and then I'll tell you who it. Because I think I know who you're going to
pick. The dude that I thought of initially. And I think I'm going to go with Michael Garcia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. That was the other option.
Yeah. He walked more than he struck out in, I believe that was in Colombia. And then he goes to Quad Cities and he only struck out 16% of the time and walked around 10%. So that's tolerable enough that I'll take that. I don't think he's going to, I mean, obviously the risk here is he's on the 40. So how many plate appearances is he going to get? But I think for a guy that's, he's going to be 22, first shot at A ball, be one of the younger guys at AA. I think there's a pretty good chance he can still have that kind of command of the strike zone and find a way to keep it right around 1.
Josh, are you gonna roll the dice and hope Pasquantino gets 250 plate appearances?
That's pretty close. Yeah, that might be a go around. I was also looking at Nick Lofton and also Clay Dungan. They all have pretty good walk rates with the relatively lower K rate. So I think I got to stick with the Vinny P. 12.5 and a 12.5 last year. Got a great approach. We talked about his desire to get on base is not as much as his desire to not strike out last week. So I think that he's convinced me. Give me Vinny Pasquantino as my guy to go for a K to walk ratio.
I actually think that's a really safe pick because Vinny's never played in Omaha, and I know, the lockout. I think there's a better chance he gets 250 minor league plate appearances than Prado because Prado is
100%.
already on the 40.
Exactly.
But that I actually think it's a really good pick, and probably I overlooked that one with Daryl Collins.
No,
But
I still think
higher
Daryl Collins
level
is a good one.
versus high A, triple A versus high A. So we'll see.
Yep.
Josh, stolen bases.
Oh, I knew you were gonna do this. There's just so many. Like, I love this category because in the minor leagues, it just doesn't matter. There's just so many stolen bases in there.
I hate having the third pick for this one because there's a guy I want so bad.
I mean, the leader last year only caught 2 times. I got another dude that I just love in general.
Take the one that you love.
Then I'm going Brewer Hicklin. I
it.
love me some Brewer Hicklin. He was a 40 stolen bases, only caught 4 times. He's on base, a decent click. He should be, starting in Omaha. I don't really know what the outfield situation is going to be like in the big league club, but they got plenty of utility guys that they can kind of switch around. And he does strike out quite a bit. So if for some reason he stalls out in Omaha, he's still going to be ripping bags. So I love Brewer Hicklin. Shout out to Brewer Hicklin. I'm going to take him for my guy.
Dare to be great, Joel. Do something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't. Why can I not think of who this dude's name? I completely just blanked.
Yeah, keep blanking. Take
Vinny Plaskin.
Dare to be great.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take Vinny. Yeah, no, I'm not taking
Darren Blanco's available. Michael Garcia's available. Clay Dungan's available.
Tyler Tolbert.
Nate, stop it.
Year.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Josh. Kick rock.
Yeah, just here, guys.
Yeah. I hope your floor becomes made of Legos.
Okay. I'll see what I can do.
It's Tyler Tolbert. That's all. That he's incredible at stealing bases. It's Terrence score levels of good. I'm going Tyler Tolbert.
Incredible stuff.
Okay, I'm going Diego Hernandez.
That's
Diego
not
Hernandez can absolutely scoot. I think he'll be in high A. Of course, Tyler Tolbert might be in high A too, so that could be one speedy team.
Yeah.
Last year, Tyler Tolbert, 55 steals, only got caught stealing twice in 89 games. Diego Hernandez had 35 steals in 79 games, so 10 fewer games, 20 fewer steals. He was also caught 11 times. I will bank on some positive regression in the caught stealing category for both players. I will take Diego Hernandez and just pray that man runs wild like he did for Columbia and in the complex league a little bit last summer. So
kind of a dark horse on that front. I can't wait to see what John Rave does this year. He only had 13 stolen bases last year in 77 games, but he did get some really good, like that speed rating if Fangraphs has out there. He had one of the highest in high A. So I'm interested to see what John Rave does.
Could be an interesting, almost like a Khalil Lee type jump in stolen bases where he could run when he was in, at the time, Wilmington, and then he goes to Double-A Northwest Arkansas and steals like 50 bags out of nowhere. Yep. I mean, John Rave could I think if there's any candidate to do something like that, it'd probably be Rave.
Yep.
Do we want to do any more offensive categories before we jump over to the pitchers?
I'm good, I think.
Do we want to do offensive strikeouts?
No, I think we're good there. I don't feel like I don't want to nuke anyone on that.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
Okay, we got hits, home runs, OPS, walk to strikeout, and stolen bases. That's a good. It's
like a 5-category fantasy baseball league right there.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna jump over to pitchers now. I'm going to set the rate qualifier at 50 innings. So pitchers got to get 50 innings to qualify for the titles of rate stats. And we're going to start with ERA. And I am going to take, who am I going to take? Let's see. I'm looking at like the list of guys of where they could be. Trying to think of a guy who could be like at the lower levels and still get some good run. This is actually kind of tough. I will take one. I'm going to go with Drew Parrish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid that he'll pitch in the big leagues, but if he pitches in the big leagues, maybe it'll be like 60 minor league innings with a great ERA. They call him up. Yeah, I'll go Drew Parrish.
He's got a lot of depth to work through. He got a lot of leapfrogging to do to get consideration, I think. And I mean, he's still somewhat off the radar. I mean, there's still like Fangraphs doesn't believe in him. I'm curious to see what Pipeline has him coming in, but he had a great year last year. So I'm really curious to see if he actually turned some heads and got on some radars there, because boy, he got on mine. And I think that's a great pick.
Joel, you're up.
Yeah, I'm gonna just take the low hanging fruit here and go with Asa Lacy. I am all in on the Asa Lacy is going to shove, and everyone is going to wonder why they took him off their top 100 lists. Like, the comeback campaign is going to be real. He's actually healthy. Some of the videos that are coming out of some of the stuff that he's doing, I mean, it's gross. Some of his bullpens look like he looks healthy. He did not look healthy last year. He was not. I think he had a back injury, which that correlates to some of the really, really bad command issues that he had. When he's anywhere remotely close to the strike zone, it's some of the most unhittable stuff in all of minor league baseball. And I think he's going to get even closer to actually hitting the strike zone more often this year. And with the swing and miss he has, I have no reason to believe he can't lead the Oregon minor in a ERA.
Gonna be a big year. This is an FU year for Asa Lacy, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Y'all forgot. I'm here to remind you. I think you guys are. I'm thinking out of the box here. You guys are doled into the starters. I'm going to the bullpen with Will Klein.
I thought about that.
Yeah, he has a 41% K rate last year, a 15% walk rate, and he still only had a 3.20 ERA. So if he figures out that if he's not walking the world, he's not giving up runs, that ERA is going to plummet. And if he could also get that call, be up in the big league bullpen in no time. He probably starts out in at least AA this year. So I think Will Klein has still got a really good shot to lead this Oregon ERA by the end of the year.
That is a good pick. I'm afraid he won't get 50 innings.
Yep. He had 70 last
year. And he is so good. He might be in a big league bullpen before he can get to 50.
Yep.
I could see him having 30 or 40 and then getting the call for his last 30 or 40.
Yep.
We'll see. If they turn him into a starter, which I don't think is, I think there's a non-zero chance he starts some games. That could totally mess with this, but that's a really good pick if he gets his 50 innings.
So this is a little bit of a galaxy brain thing, but wouldn't you love to see Will Klein as an opener?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like a 2-inning opener. He'd be just as good at that as he would in the 8th and 9th.
Yeah. And I'm going to get weird here and throw a guy like Foster Griffin behind him. Maybe really throw it off the batter's eye. Yeah, I love that idea. I'm really interested in that idea.
So are you going to go with Klein for strikeouts as well?
Let me see who I had for
third in the org
here
last year as a reliever.
Yes,
as a reliever.
I'm actually going Lacy with this one. More or less the same reason. It's the FU tour for Asa Lacy. I think this year, I think he's got a lot of obstacles that are going to keep him in the minor leagues. So at least, rebuild some of that value. He's got health concerns, control issues, and there's, like we've kind of talked about before, there is some depth ahead of him. So I think he's got a lot to prove. I think he's going to prove it. I think he's going to lead this organization in Ks this year.
Joel?
I'm going to go with Alec Marsh. When he was healthy last year, he was really, really good. He had, I think, one clunker maybe, but when he was healthy before they shut him down, his stuff is arguably probably the second best in the system behind Lacy. So the strikeout stuff is there. I don't know if they'll put him in AA or AAA. They might send him back to AA just to get some innings and get his feet underneath him and then move up to Omaha. But the stuff is there, and I think this is going to be one where I think he really pops. I think there were times where he popped last year, and he was on some top 100 lists where that even made us kind of go scratch our heads a little bit. But I mean, the stuff is there for Alec Marsh to be a dominant force.
I'm going to go with the 2021 strikeout leader and Anthony Veniciano.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Veniciano led the organization in strikeouts last year, despite being 7th in innings pitched. I think he goes to AA, does much of the same of what we saw in high A. His fastball is just too good. And compared with his slider, even if they move him to the bullpen at any point in time this season, I think he's still got a chance to lead the organization in strikeouts similarly as Klein did, which, by the way, Will Klein leading the organization in strikeouts being third with 70 innings pitched is nuts. Will Klein He was only 6 off of Anthony Veniciano in strikeouts, and he was 22nd in innings pitched in the organization. So maybe I'm overlooking Will Klein here, but I do think he's going to be in the big leagues at some point, and so it's hard for me to take a guy who I don't even know if he's going to be there. So I will go with one Anthony Veniciano there.
Veniciano had 23 innings pitched on him too.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Will Klein, very good pitcher. That's
very
good at it.
That's what throwing 102 does.
Yeah, not too bad.
Let's jump to strikeout to walk ratio. This is going to be tough because the strikeout to walk ratio leaders last year in the system did not represent at all the most talented pitchers in the system because not walking guys is a little overrated. So I'm looking at the list and I'm bouncing around between I'll just read you the top 5: Cruz Noriega, Herbert Garcia, Emilio Marquez, Christian Cosby, Nate Webb. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how do you not pick Cruz Noriega again?
Sure.
And for absolutely no reason other than he did it last year, and this is kind of a wonky list. I am going to go with, you know what? Give me Herbert Garcia. I'll take Herbert Garcia. He's a little bit younger. He's probably going to be playing at low A. I think there's a chance he strikes out a bunch of guys. The walk rate was good. I'm going to go with Herbert Garcia, but I mean, this is a a shot in the dark. Well, this is kind of one of my favorite low-key categories because it's a shot in the dark. So, Joel, good luck on this one. Let's see your strikeout to walk leaders.
I'm going to go with Drew Parrish just because he doesn't strike out a ton. He had 118 strikeouts last year, which is really good. I'm not going to try and knock that number. But he only walked 28, and this was in a total of 98 and 2/3 innings. So he commands the ball well. The stuff isn't overpowering, but the field of pitch is too good for me to think that he's not going to be able to sustain some sort of he may not strike out a ton, but he's not going to walk much either. So it helps that ratio.
Yep.
Josh?
That's who I was going to pick. I was going to go Parrish because I love him. Speaking of this weird wonky category, CJ Eldridge is 12th on this list, by the way, from last year.
You gotta qualify 50 innings for the rate stats.
It's 53 and 53.2. I don't know. But right under him is a guy that I don't know if he's still got prospect status, but he's going to be, I think, pitching a little bit in Omaha, and he could get to 50 innings. Well, I'm gonna caveat that. Angel Zerpa is who I'm going with there. I think he did have a debut last year. He did pitch really well in it. But again, depth at that starting position. I think they're going to want to keep him stretched out as a starter just in case. He's only 21 years old. So there's no rush to get him up there. He's already on the 40-man, so that's obviously an issue. But I feel like Angel Zerpa is going to be the guy that, could get over that hump, will strike out some dudes, not going to walk many, and he's going to have at least 50 great innings in the minor leagues, I think.
That's a good pick, especially if, like you said, he does get some minor league time, which seems likely, all things considered. I mean, only made one big league start last year, so
I was kind of engine towards Daniel Lynch a little bit there too. I feel like he's got some competition, some things to prove. He didn't have the best, debut last year, so he could also spend some time trying to make sure that he's off and running before he gets in the major leagues. So we can give him an honorable mention in my book.
Next category we're going to jump to, Josh, you have the first pick, is ground ball rate. We're getting funky here.
My God. Ugh, this is a complete shot in the dark. I don't even know where to start because it's so up and down. Like I've seen plenty of dudes. I guess Anderson Paulino. He jumped out when we were doing the rankings. I hadn't really kind of taken a deep dive into him, but had a 57.1% ground ball rate last year in 86 innings. They're in high A and high A. So I think there's a decent chance that he gets, plenty of innings there in high A. If he works out, then double A. But people can have a great ground ball rate and be absolutely nothing in the rest of the categories. So who knows? Who the hell knows? But I'll go with Anderson Paulino.
All right, I'm going to go with Frank Mazzucato for no other reason than why the hell not.
Yeah,
That's
good enough with me.
fair. That's
That was not a category I was expecting.
Yeah.
So I had no one on my radar there. But hey, ground outs are pretty democratic. Get your infield involved. And I think Mazzucato, and it's not, I'm not trying to, make this anything like a shot at Mazzucato, but I think he pitches well enough and has enough feel to pitch that he can go and get a ground ball when he needs it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go there. Just to throw a new name on the list.
Yep.
Diversifying your portfolio. Very
That's
good.
right.
There.
Yes.
I'm going to take Luinder Avila, number 50 on our preseason prospect rankings. Good cut sink to his fastball, great changeup, great curveball, good command of his pitches. I think he's probably going to be in low A for a good portion of the year, so I've got that on my side. I'm going to go with Luinder Avila because I like him, and I don't think anybody else has even mentioned him in their lists. So
he might pop up in another category later for me. But what I was going to ask you if you guys knew, I knew he was pumping kind of low 90s for the fastball, but what is his curveball velocity? Because it might be high 70s, maybe.
It's like 78.
Yeah, it completely works because it's got dudes off balance so much. But I was just curious if you guys knew that because I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet. But
I think he'll work at low 80s.
Yeah,
when he's done developing, but it's a great pitch. It's a hammer of a pitch.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Last category of our stats draft thing that we're doing here. Let's go swinging strike rate. So I really hate the 50 inning caveat for these rate stats because there's like most of the guys I want to take I think are going to pitch in the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Will Klein, Dylan Coleman, Nate Webb's on the 40. So I'm going to go with Asa Lacy because I haven't taken Asa Lacy yet, and I feel like it'd be good to have him in something. So this is a pretty good category, I think, to have him in.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Will Klein purely because, it's 102. It's 99 to 102. Absolute hammer of a curveball and a really good changeup to boot with it. He has 3 pitches he can get you out with and in any count and get a swing and miss in any, at any time. So I think that's where I'll go. It's a risk because I don't think he gets to 50 innings either. I think he ends up in Kansas City pretty quick. But if he does get to 50, then I'm going to win this.
Did you guys know Jake Newberry was 5th in the organization last year in swinging strike percentage?
It's not a name we talk about. I'm sure Drake Newberry's a great human. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, it's not a big sexy name, but it just kind of blew me away there. I did not know he was still in the system last year. Shout out to Jake. I'm gonna probably hit with Veneziano on this. 18.5 last year is fourth in the organization. So I'm gonna see if I can backdoor Alex's most strikeouts and see if we can get some swinging strike from him so we can cancel out one of those liquid deaths that's coming our way.
So here's what I got for the draft. In hits, Josh took Michael Massey. Joel took Nick Lofton. I have Tucker Bradley. Home runs, I have Sully Matias. Joel has Michael Massey. Josh has Nick Prado. OPS, Josh has Nick Prado again. Joel took Vinny Pasquantino. I took Kale M Schoff. Walk to strikeout, I have Daryl Collins. Joel took Michael Garcia. Josh took Pasquantino. Stolen bases, Josh took Brewer Hicklin. Joel's going to win with Tyler Tolbert, and I have Diego Hernandez. On the pitching side, I have Drew Parrish for ERA. Joel took Asa Lacy, and Josh took Will Klein. Strikeouts, Josh took Lacy. Joel took Alec Marsh. I have Anthony Veneciano. Strikeout to walk ratio, I have Herbert Garcia. Joel took Drew Parrish. Josh has Angel Zerpa. Ground ball rate, Josh took Anderson Paulino. Joel took Frank Mazzucato. I have Luinder Avila. Swinging strike rate, I have Asa Lacy. Joel has Will Klein. Josh has Anthony Veneciano. And that recaps our call your shot stats prospect draft. I like the way we did that. We had planned on going through the stats and talking about who's where and whatever. But the way we drafted that, I like the way that went. That made for a better everybody agree on Sully? Yep. Okay, next. Right. So,
right. Yeah. Sully's good. Okay, what's next?
So really quick, before we get into this next thing that I didn't tell you guys that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, no.
We got to shout out Drum Farm. Drum Farm is a foster care center in Lee Summit, Missouri. They house, they educate not only minors that are in the foster care system, but they have a Compass program who also they bring in kids who have aged out of the foster care system. And I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but like the kids who age out of the foster care system, the number of them that end up in let's just call it low places is staggeringly high. The system in our country does not take care of kids who have aged out of the foster care program. We'll take care of you till you're 18. You turn 18, see a kid, like good luck to you. So the Compass program at Drum Farm does a great job taking care of kids who have aged out of the foster care system, as well as having housing, taking care of foster kids there in Lee Summit, Missouri. Thank you very much to them, and glad to be able to partner with them. And their bumper will be running whatever. They'll be sponsoring our minor league minute coming up this summer, but right now there's nothing to recap in terms of minor league baseball. All we have is talking about future prospective minor league baseball. So if you remember our podcast from last summer, what we would do, Joel and I would open the first 30 minutes of our podcast recapping the minor league week, the minor league events of the week. So this summer that will look a little different. It'll be more like 10, 15 minutes of recapping the minor league system. That will be brought to us by Drum Farm, again, the foster care center out of Lee Summit, Missouri. They do great work. Go support them. Donate if you feel like it. But again, great work on them. They're our partner for the minor league minute coming up this summer. Okay, boys. The next thing I want to talk to you about, and maybe I didn't bring this up in the group chat because I wanted to get your raw takes here before you have time to think about it, is if you had to pick two prospects that are not currently in our top 10. So if you need to pull up our top 10 really quick, just as a refresher, you can do that. If you had to pick two prospects not currently in our top 10 and give them Vegas odds for the likelihood that they are the best likelihood of them being the number one prospect next offseason. Because I think we all think that Pasquantino, Melendez, Prado, Bobby Witt are going to age out, or not age out. They're going to graduate from the prospect list. Who has the best chance of becoming our number one prospect next offseason? If you follow us at royalsfarmreport.com, I wrote an article about this last offseason, but I want to get your guys' takes on this. Who has the best chance of making that jump to the top prospect status next offseason? Joel, we'll start with you.
It's low hanging fruit to a degree because he's been in our top 10 in the past, but I think it's Eric Pena. The tools are too loud. The ability is there, and he didn't play. He got his first taste of ball stateside because he was a J2 kid out of the DR. He goes to the complex league and he struggled. It was not pretty, but a lot of those guys did. I think Wilman Candelario was another guy that we think pretty highly of, and he struggled too. It was not exclusive to the Royal system either. It's just the game is different. They're in an unfamiliar place. Things are, there's more adjustments to it than just baseball. But some of this is, I trust Drew Saylor. I trust Mike Tozar. I trust Alex Zumwalt to figure it out with these guys. And if they can tap into what Eric Pena can do I think he's going to be 20, making his, I don't even know if he'll be 20 yet.
No.
Making his affiliated ball debut in Columbia, theoretically, I think he's going to pop. And we've known the talent. I think we had him in our top 5 before he even played he even had a professional at bat, because the videos are out there. Some of the fastest hands I've ever seen on a kid that age. I mean, still growing into his body, but man, like the physical tools are too loud for me not to think he can be that guy.
You got a second one you would throw in there?
I think I'll go with the pitcher, and man, it's tough. I don't know if best, but maybe I'll make the caveat of this being best pitching prospect, but I think Ben Hernandez has a chance too. When we saw him when the Royals drafted him, it was, hey, 90, 91. The changeup's really good. He comes out to Columbia throwing 97. And I know he got banged up. I know he didn't pitch for very long last year, but we got some flashes of some really good stuff. And it shows, I think, the beginning of some of that adjustment with prep kids. leading into the 2021 draft where they took a bunch. But I think Ben Hernandez, the raw stuff is really good, and it's just kind of continuing to grow. And if he can stay healthy, he has a good chance to, I think, end up in our top 10 by mid-season this year.
Josh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think those are pretty decently, I'm not going to say obvious, but they're definitely like the first ones that come to mind as far as outside of the top 10. It's not everybody I wanted to get is right there at the 10 and 11. I immediately thought of Alec Marsh, who we've talked about. Kudrna and Mazzucato are all kind of right there along the same lines. So Pena was obviously my first answer that I was going to go with. But the other one, I mean, there's nobody in this organization that has a tool as much as Suli Matias's power. He's got, according to Drew Saylor, 70 grade speed. His arm will play. He makes some strides in right field and maybe up, like we've talked about in the past. Like, that tool alone is going to give him helium if he ever does anything that isn't a strikeout at any point. So I feel like he's been in that top 10. He has that prospect prestige already. And if there's anything that people like us who do rankings of these guys love more, it's to be proven right just after the fact that you've already kind of, we'll put them on the back burner and see what happens. So anybody who's believed him at one point throughout his first 3 or 4 years, it's going to be easy for them to get back on board with them, is my point. So I feel like that is 100% a good possibility that Matias could absolutely get to the top of our rankings with just, a really good year, not even a great year. I think he's going to give us enough to believe in at that point. And kind of a similar dude in body stature, I should say, but a guy that kind of jumped out to me, hasn't been on any rankings, never heard of him prior to last year, but that's Junior Marin. I can't remember how it is, but he is an absolute monster at 6'2", 205 as a 17-year-old last year. So he still got some projectability in that, but he had a 205 WRC plus, obviously a small sample size in what he did show out there, but he did have a great walk percentage, a great K percentage, had a lot of pull and a lot of ground balls that are a little bit of a red flag, but he did also pop up in Keith Law's honorable mentions a couple weeks ago. So I think he's got a decent shot he turns some heads. He puts some good stuff together there in probably low A ball or something this year. I think he could really start, jumping up these rankings pretty easily. So give me those two outfielders for my long shots or whatever you want to call this.
Marin is a great pick because of the competition he will be playing, because of his age, because of the power. There's a lot of things that could propel him to that. And again, if we're talking about guys outside the top 10, like inside the top 10, Asa Lacy, Nick Lofton, Alec Marsh, Ben Kudrna, like you talked about, they make too much sense. Yep. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and take our number 11 prospect and Frank Mazzucato. I think Mazzucato, if he comes out throwing 94, 96 with that curveball and shows any sign of a changeup and gets to high A by the end of the year in any capacity, he's going to soar up these rankings, especially if a guy like Lacy graduates. I think Frank Mazzucato is kind of an obvious cherry pick. The one guy I'm surprised nobody mentioned is Michael Garcia. Michael Garcia is a great defensive shortstop. He has one of the best hit tools in the system. He's one of the best approaches in the system. He's on the 40-man roster. He's 22. He'll be at AA. All of these things are things that you need in your favor to be that number one type prospect. Dude, if he comes out and hits 300 with 30 stolen bases at AA, gets to AAA, and he keeps flashing this glove and maybe the power picks up a little bit, he's going to jump like close to top 100 prospect lists. I really think Michael Garcia has one of the higher ceilings in the system. Now, the likelihood of him reaching it is going to be limited because I don't know what kind of power output he's capable of producing. He certainly hits the ball harder more often than his cousin Alcides Escobar did. But otherwise, he profiles a lot like Escobar with a better walk rate, with a better approach. So even if he was just Esky with a better approach, you're talking about a potential 2 to 4 win player in the big leagues every year. And then you need some power to step in to take him to that next level, right? But a lot of the things he does are really, really good. And he's on the 40. So I think he's got some of those things that prospect list makers look for, like age relative to level, how close is he to the big leagues, how safe is he, And if a guy like Lacy graduates or struggles, I think there's actually some wiggle room here at the top, depending on who graduates, who doesn't. Joel,
so you were talking about like the power output for Maikel Garcia, but we just watched the everyday shortstop for the Royals this past year hit 2 homers. So let's thought experiment here for a second. Current Nicky Lopez hit tool or future Maikel Garcia hit tool?
If I had to pick one,
But yeah,
Which one do we want?
yeah. Which one do you think would be better?
I think it's really close. Maikel Garcia's swing, he does that thing where he steps way out when he swings. Now, it has not hampered his hit tool at all. I think they're really close. I will take Nicky's because we've seen it. It's more consistent at the upper levels, but I actually think it's really close.
Yeah.
What about glove? I know Nicky should have probably won a Gold Glove at shortstop, but I mean, Maikel can pick and grin at short too.
I think I think Garcia has a higher ceiling. I think his defensive ceiling is higher than Lopez's. I think if you're talking about like Lopez's absolute ceiling at defense, I think we saw it last year and it wasn't good enough for Gold Glove consideration. I think if Maikel Garcia hits his absolute defensive ceiling, he is very much a Gold Glove winner.
Power potential.
Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Garcia's got a bigger frame. Like, it's just something to think about. It's something to think about, especially if he comes out here and produces the way we think he can. If he can go and hit around 300, and if he develops any sort of power, he's not striking out. He's walking to the degree that he did in low A with his defensive ability could make things very, very interesting.
And I think he is so underrated only because of Bobby Witt Jr. Like if Bobby Witt Jr. wasn't in this system and all else was the same, people would be talking about Maikel Garcia like they talk about Vinny Pasquantino. I really believe that because a lot of the things that we like about Pasquantino and the things he did last year, you could say the same thing about Garcia. And so if Bobby Witt Jr. wasn't taking all of the attention from the shortstop and the infield perspective of this, I think Maikel Garcia would be up there. We have Maikel Garcia ranked ahead of Michael Massey currently. So think about all the hype around Michael Massey. Yeah. We've got Garcia ranked ahead of him for a reason. The glove is legit. He can absolutely fly. He's got a great hit tool, a great approach. Really, the only thing left is, can you grow, get in the weight room, get bigger physically? If he does, and a guy I didn't even mention, Darryl Collins, you could say like everything about Darryl Collins I just said about Maikel Garcia, except for the glove. Like the overall athleticism is not quite there, but offensively, I think Collins' ceiling is way higher because of the potential power output. So I went with Garcia, but it hurt me to not take Collins there as well.
Yep. I was going to say, I thought for sure you were going Collins there, but it totally makes sense. Maikel Garcia is your other guy, so it does make a lot of sense there.
So this is a little bit of a long shot, but I'm just curious your thoughts as we are in the middle of the college baseball season and the draft is readily approaching. What % chance would you give at the guy that the Royals take at 9 being the number 1 prospect heading into 23?
20%.
I think it really to me, it just depends on where they go. Yeah. If they cut an underslot deal again, like they did with Mazzucato, I don't think there's a chance. But if for some ungodly reason, like a Chase DeLauder or a Brooks Lee or who is the other guy, like a Carter Young kind of rises a little bit, any of those guys are there, I think you have a legitimate argument that they could be number 1. And I say this under the assumption that Prado, Melendez, Witt, Pasquantino, Lacy have gone and are going to, at least in our rankings, they will be gone because they will play in the major leagues. And we don't, at our site, by the way, we don't necessarily go purely off of like the
eligibility,
the eligibility that you have to hit to be a rookie or not. Like if you're in the big leagues for a significant enough time, we're just going to take you off our list. So if that's the case, I think if they go college, I'll make that the caveat. If they go college bat, I think there's a good chance that guy could be number 1.
I also think like the best answer, if we just eliminated like caveats, like I said, you had to be outside top 10. The right answer is probably Jonathan Bolin, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Coming back from Tommy John, he probably doesn't make the big leagues, but if he comes back and shoves like he was doing at AA, like he's probably the right answer, right?
I think that's fair.
Lacy's also in that caveat, but I think if we're talking about Lacy being so good, he's the number 1 prospect. I think he makes his big league debut. I don't think we rank him. Like I think there's a caveat in there. I think Lacy's either 5 to 10 because he struggled a little bit, or he just makes his big league debut and he's not in our rankings at all. Like that's the hard part for a guy who's that talented. With Bolin coming off an injury, not quite Asa Lacy, probably not debuting, even though he is on the 40-man roster. I think there's just some extra wiggle room for him. But Alec Marsh in the same vein is
Ben Cooterna. Ben Cooterna could be kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hesitancy with really thinking that a high school kid is going to pop right away in pro ball, but the stuff is too loud for him. And if he really is consistently sitting like 96 to 98, popping a triple digit there by July once it warms up, man, I would have a hard time not getting the hype train off the tracks for that guy.
I agree 100%.
Another one that we've kind of hit on a little bit ago, and he's pretty far down the rankings, so we're talking about quite a rise here. But Luinder Avila, I think, is another guy that has quite a bit of potential to kind of start turning heads and is making way up our rankings, at least our rankings. So I think that's somebody that I could see, adding some velo to that body frame. He's already got a decent walker percentage and a good K rate. So and also had a really good ground ball rate last year, so he can get out. So I think Luinder Avila could also be potentially in that conversation.
All right. Any final thoughts tonight? Joel, we'll start with you.
Nope. My final thought was thinking about if the guy the Royals draft could be number one. And I think there's certainly the possibility, though. Like I said, if someone overthinks Chase DeLauder for some reason and you get that guy in Kansas City, there's your number one.
I think the most realistic is like Brooks Lee, like you said, but Brooks Lee has one strikeout in however many games.
That's why I
he's hitting himself out of the conversation.
Oh yeah.
I think Cam Collier is your best.
Oh yes.
Is your best chance there because a
like
JUCO kid, I think he could fall to number 9 and his ceiling is so high. Like we were talking about it in the group chat, has some Mike Moustakas in his game, but he's a better athlete right now. Like I don't mean to say that Moose got overweight, but he definitely couldn't play shortstop anymore, right? Like I think Cam Collier could even play second base, like a good second base right now. He's just way more athletic than Moose was in the minors and the majors. And if he can keep like that weight on him and just put on muscle and not the extra, right? I mean, I think the possibility for him to be a really good defender at a couple different positions is there. And the power is just crazy. His swing actually reminds me of Moose a little bit. So Cam Collier is the guy I'm watching there at number 9. Josh, any final thoughts?
I'm done with winter. We had thunder sleet. What in the shit? It was. What is happening? Have we lost our damn minds? Is the weather lost its damn mind? What is thunder sleet? We had it. Never seen it. What is this?
That I did not have that on my 2022 bingo card.
Incredible.
Like I was
that one.
I had penciled in somewhere that you have the pandemic squares, you have World War III squares, Russia squares.
Did you have Brittany Griner was going to be the reason that we had the World War III?
No, I did not.
That was a tough one.
Griner on my 2022 bingo card. Taiwan's down in the bottom right-hand corner, hanging in there.
Decent
I did not have thunder sleet.
Thunder sleet.
There was tornado warnings up north yesterday. Can you imagine if we would have had like the tornado sleet like that? I mean, I would have just.
There's a couple. Was that last snowstorm that there was actually thunder snow caught on some of those like plaza overhead cameras. So, I mean, it exists, and I remember seeing a video of a meteorologist doing like a live report just a couple years ago, and he got pumped for seeing thunder snow for the first time, and I feel like I've seen like 7 times in the last 3 years. So, all bets are off anymore. All bets are off. Whatever. Life is just going to happen.
My final thought on the night is the high school baseball season gets underway. Well, I mean, technically it got underway last week. We're coming up on our second week of high school baseball. At the end of the third week of high school baseball, games will start. There's a big tournament in Kansas City. Some of the best schools in the area are going to be playing in. When I was in high school in the early 2010s, it was rare to see a D1 kid. It was even rare, obviously, to face a kid getting drafted or draft potential. I mean, there was the Riley Pint. So there's Bubba Starling, but then there was the Riley Pint and Joey Wentz here. All those guys, Kansas kids. Monte Harrison got drafted at Elite Summit West. Matt Hall. and Matt Fultz all got drafted at Lee Summit West. So there was like pockets of it. I was looking at, like the PBR Prep Baseball Report rankings for the Missouri and the Kansas area here in Kansas City. Lee Summit West last year sent 2 kids to UCM, a kid to Mizzou. Liberty North has a kid committed to Oklahoma, another kid committed to Tennessee. Liberty, their ace is committed to Vanderbilt, is probably going to be a draft pick. Their shortstop is committed to Texas A&M. There's several Arkansas commits. There are like Kudrna and Jensen last year, LSU commits get drafted by the Royals. The talent in the Kansas City area for high school baseball has never been higher. I have never seen anything like this. Like I said, when I was in high school 10 years ago, it was Lee Summit West and some Kansas kids. Now it's everybody. Everybody's got kids that are this talented, and it's nuts. I've never seen anything like it. I never heard of anything like this in Kansas City. It is incredible to watch. And it's incredible to be able to coach against and just see all this talent and the opportunity to be involved in the game in this kind of glory days of Kansas City high school baseball is really cool. So if you don't get to have your big league fix, and if you are living in Kansas City and don't want to drive an hour or more to get to college games, go watch some high school baseball. I know it's high school sports, it's whatever, but dude, there is so much talent. I swear, if you just picked a random high school game to go to, like a big high school game in Kansas City, the chances of you getting to see a D1 kid in action are really high. Like it's weird. I've never seen it like this before. But it's a really cool opportunity to be involved with. So if you want to go catch some high school baseball, go catch some high school baseball. Like I said, Liberty has an A&M commit, a Vandy commit. They're going to be fun to watch. But there's several schools like this in the area. So go watch some high school baseball. It's a great time. It's, college baseball. People are like finding college baseball now because of the MLB lockout. Go find some high school baseball. It's fun. It's electric. But anyway, there's my little spiel about high school baseball season getting underway here in the next couple of weeks. So,
all right.
All right, gents. Thank you, boys, very much for joining me tonight. Thank you to Tucker on the other side of the screen for doing all the producing. Former RFR writer, actually, Tucker Franklin. So thanks, Tuck. Thank you to KCSE, Kansas City Strength and Conditioning, for picking up the podcast again, our title sponsor for the 2022 season. Thank you to Drum Farm for picking up the Minor League Minute. Thank you to all of you for listening. If you are on the Chiefs channel listening to this, make sure to go subscribe to the KCSN Royals channel, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Come subscribe, come listen. Make sure to check out Joel's One Royal Way about the big league team. Until then, we will see you again real soon. Thanks for listening.